Welcome to Rethink Retail, the show where we dive into the stories and strategies behind some of the most successful brands on the planet. From brick and mortar giants to e-commerce disruptors, we uncover the secrets to their success and deliver the keys to true retail transformation. So ask yourself, are you ready to rethink retail? The future of retail and AI in retail starts now.
Welcome to the AIR podcast, Rethink Retail series on AI in retail, where we explore how artificial intelligence is reshaping retail. While the hype is at an all-time high, 74% of CIOs already regret their recent AI investments as projects stall in pilot purgatory. Retailers are finding that moving on from a flashy demo to a trusted, scalable production environment is much harder than it looks. I'm your host, Glassman, Rethink Retail's top AI leader and top retail expert, and today we are joined by Mark Abramowitz, CMO at Dataiku. With a background defining the enterprise playbook at Salesforce and ServiceNow, Mark is here to help us decode why AI projects fail and how retail leaders can hit their performance targets before the 2026 budget cliff. Mark, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Well, hello, and thank you, Charisma. Pretty excited to be here. My name is Mark Abramowitz, and as you said, I'm the CMO of Dataiku. Been here now for almost about 6 months and just really excited about the choices that I made to come here and what we're doing at Dataiku to really help companies be successful with AI.
Awesome. And you said, Mark, you have been logged in from the West Coast.
Yeah, I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, so right in the heart of all this innovation that is taking place. And I've now been here for quite some time. Originally from New York, but now been here about half my life in the San Francisco area.
Love it. I'm an East Coast gal locked in from New York City today and probably a shift between New York and Florida. But, I'm sure you have the same sunny weather like I'm experiencing, but not in New York.
Correct. Not in New York right now.
All right. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about how AI is really changing and a little bit of your background and how we can really make an impact in retail AI. With a background of defining the enterprise playbook at Salesforce and ServiceNow, Mark is here to help us decode why AI projects fail and how retail leaders can hit their performance targets before the 2026 budget cliff. So, Mark, let me just ask you a few questions here. You just published a survey of about 600 enterprise CIOs worldwide. The headline is finding a pretty striking 74% of the CIOs regret at least one major AI vendor or platform decision that they have made in the last 18 months. Why do you think that number is so high?
Yeah, so good place to start. Firstly, I'd say I'm actually not surprised by that number being so high. CIOs now are asking hard questions about AI, and CIOs are being asked to move super, super fast. And in that environment, it's inevitable some decisions may need to get revisited. I mean, it's a little cliche, but it's the reality that, the AI landscape is moving faster than any technology cycle we've ever seen before. Faster than what I saw with cloud, faster than what I saw with mobile, faster than I saw than with social. And so there's new models, new applications, and new infrastructure popping up every day. And the ecosystem changes every month, sometimes every week. And so this pace is creating real friction inside retailers and large enterprises. And companies are making a bet on a tool or a platform. And then a month later, that landscape has already shifted. It's moving so quickly. And so our survey actually shows how much pressure CIOs are under. 62% say their CEO has questioned or challenged a vendor, an AI vendor or platform decision they've made at least once or a decision they've made in the last year. And it makes sense. Leaders want to know they're building something that will last, not something that will have to be ripped out a week, a month, or a year later. And that's actually why flexibility matters so much in this moment. Retailers need a platform that works with any model, any data platform, with any hyperscaler. So there's no lock-in, there's no forced data migration, and no betting the company on a single vendor. And because the market is moving so fast, what we've seen is that the safest strategy is actually building out a platform that evolves as the ecosystem evolves. And the retailers that are really succeeding are the ones that are treating AI as part of how the business actually runs, not a set of pilots or experiments. And so I think the biggest mistake in AI right now is assuming that today's landscape will look the same next week or next month, and definitely not next year.
I completely agree with you that this is constantly evolving space, leader constantly challenged, and CIOs have to really pivot in real time. I also read in the report that you found out about 71% of the CIOs, to be precise, expect their budgets to be cut or frozen if they don't hit the performance targets by mid 2026. What do you think, in your experience, these leaders should be prioritizing right now in this moment?
So, in the backdrop of how quickly things are moving, what we're seeing right now is that AI is kind of becoming more, or has been, a strategic investment. And now we're moving into a phase where CIOs need to prove real business value. And so over the last couple of years, there's been a lot of experimentation, running pilots, testing models, just trying to figure out what's actually possible with all this change, with all these new ideas, with all this noise in the market. But now that what we're seeing is that leadership teams want to see measurable outcomes. They want to know, is this driving revenue, improving margins, helping us with productivity, or reducing risk? It's the real promise of digital transformation and now AI transformation. And the companies that are succeeding tend to start by speeding up their existing processes, and they're focused on productivity and efficiency. And that can be one of the faster ways to get to some level of ROI. But what we're seeing is that the biggest returns often come from companies that are willing to go a little further, willing to take a little bit more of a risk and tackle more complex processes that, with a little bit more risk, you get a lot more return. And so take something like manufacturing operations or supply chains or store level planning. These are complicated systems with a lot of moving parts. These are not, yes, there's efficiency gains to be had here, but it's really about how AI can improve the decisions. And when you can do that in those environments, the impact becomes much, much bigger. And so, from our perspective at Dataiku, what we see is that we're entering what I call a new era, and that's an era of business impact driven AI, not just productivity gains. And so CEOs, CIOs still believe, obviously, in the potential of AI, but what they now expect, what they now demand, is that they need the measurable business results. And so the organizations that win are the ones that move beyond experimentation and really start operationalizing some of those core processes, those competitive advantages across the business. And so I think the question, it was, what can AI do? But now it's all about, what did AI actually deliver and how did it impact the business?
100% aligned with you. What we say is there is no AI intelligence without process intelligence. So, what you just said is about really taking processes, data, and technology and weaving it all together to deliver real business measurable outcomes. And that is the path to success. And that's what CIOs should focus right now.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, the way that we are starting to articulate that here at Data IQ is we have this thing called the AI success formula, where it's about your people, it's about orchestration, and it's fundamentally about governance. And when you put all three of those things together, that's how enterprises, that's how retailers can achieve AI success.
That's great. So now let's talk about a little bit about moving from pilots to production. I think you touched upon that a little bit in your conversation earlier. What do you think does a successful path looks like from experimentation to scaled, trusted, responsible, governed AI that looks like?
So, what we're seeing in our customers, particularly in our retailers, is that the ones that are being successful with AI right now is that they do something different from the start. They build for production on day one. So what this means is that, you can go fast when you have trust and governance built in. And you want your teams to be able to move quickly, but within a system where your models, your data, and your agents are governed and accountable from day one. And so one example we have is with SoftBank. They needed a centralized workspace for their AI-driven sales operating model. And so using Dataiku, they gave more than 1,000 sellers access to approved AI agents through a single ChatGPT-like interface. Things
Wow.
like meeting intelligence and scoring and research assistance, which is great. Like you can build that agent to do that through that single interface. But because it was governed and standardized from day one, the system quickly scaled across the entire organization. And SoftBank has gotten some huge returns. They're saving about 20 hours per seller every month, which when you add it up across all of their sellers, it's roughly about 250,000 hours a year. So again, that's 250,000 hours a year given back to the sales organization to go spend time with customers, to go solve and be successful with their customers and ultimately drive more revenue for SoftBank. And so what's happening now is this data, this meeting data that's sat in all these different systems is being orchestrated and informing daily decisions. Another example from Dataiku is Roche, huge organization, and their patent attorneys, non-technical folks, used to spend hours digging through tens of thousands of legal documents to find the right precedent to base for patents. And so the patent attorneys themselves built an AI research assistant that they called Lex on Dataiku, bringing all of their tools, their research tools together into a single agent. And so attorneys built it, and now the attorneys are getting answers in seconds instead of hours, saving hundreds of thousands of dollars annually in attorney time, and fundamentally shifting how Roche is doing legal research. And while those examples come from tech and pharma, I think the lessons are relevant and applicable directly to retail. The companies that are winning aren't just running more pilots. They're centralizing AI agents on a governed foundation, on a platform that has governance built in from day one, where decisions about pricing or inventory or promotions and customer experience are connected and accountable. And so when you build that foundation early, that governance, that insight, that orchestration, AI moves beyond that experimentation and really starts to deliver real impact at the core business processes of these organizations.
Super inspiring to hear that how retailers can really learn from across the industries. Banking is so highly regulated, and so is healthcare and pharma, that there are so many interconnectivities that retailers today can get inspired from. So thank you so much, Mark, for sharing.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, we find that cross industry sharing or pollination or even just like getting executives from these companies together. And of course, you all want to learn from your current industry, but I think there's really interesting things happening across these highly complex regulated organizations that whether you're in retail or banking or manufacturing or pharma or healthcare, like there are some commonalities, particularly when it comes to the complexity of these environments and the need for governance as a foundation and the ability to work with sort of whatever infrastructure. Again, the language models or the data platforms or the various AI tools that are out there and pulling them all together, but doing it in a way that is sort of controlled with visibility and with the best of your people sort of embedded in all the AI that you're building.
Great. So, talking about interconnectivity across industries, I want to dig a little deeper into your own background, right? You worked at Salesforce, ServiceNow. We talked a lot about what's working. I want to know, where do retailers and CIOs and other CXOs, how are they approaching when they tend to go wrong? So, what didn't work? What were the lessons learned? Do you want to touch a little bit about that?
Sure. So maybe a little bit about me. So yes, I spent a long part of my career at Salesforce and ServiceNow, and the experience there was amazing. At Salesforce, we talked a lot about being a platform. And so the reality is it was really a successful collection of products that we integrated together and it drove enormous value for our customers, but that was really about applications. And ServiceNow really saw